So, a very good evening, everyone. Welcome again to day 5 of HackerPitch learning session. HackerPitch 2.0 is back again. So, come on, guys. You will get a chance to develop your ideas and provide them new approaches to solve real world problems. I am Rashmi, an organizing team member of HackerPitch 2.0, with my co host Kanika, who is also the core of hospitality for Paradox.
Hello, everyone.
We are so excited to be here with all of you today. First of all, on behalf of the organizers, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your participation in these online sessions. Your presence and engagement in the last four boot camps had made this event a huge success. Thank you all and a warm welcome to all of you. Hope you all will enjoy. Moving forward, I would like to hand over this session to Kanika. Over to you, Kanika.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be your anchor for this intensive and immersive session. I understand the value of having a solid foundation to success in this dynamic and fast paced industry. Today's session will provide you foundational ideas about Android development. As you all know, one of the most important aspects of a hackathon is collaboration and learning from experts in the field. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we have a very special guest joining us today, Mr. Hardik Agrawal, an accomplished software developer at Google. He will share his knowledge and expertise on a wide range of essential topics for building modern software applications. He will cover programming languages, IDEs, Android SDK, libraries, databases, UI design, and testing framework, and will provide valuable insights on how to choose the right technologies for your project. This learning session is a must attend for anyone looking to upskill and stay ahead of the curve in the fast changing world of software development. He will cover all aspects of the process from brainstorming and ideation to team building and project management. This will be a valuable opportunity to learn from one of the industry's leading experts. I encourage you to come with the willingness to learn from Hardik's expertise. I'm confident that you will find his session informative, inspiring, and impactful. Please join me in welcoming Hardik sir to this bootcamp. Welcome, sir.
I'll start. First of all, I think I'll share my screen. Very, very small. So first of all, I'll thanks Rashmik and Kanika to kind of oversell me, I would say. So I'll I'll just talk a little bit about what Android is. I am not targeting any, very core technical stuff. Although if you have any question, I'll try my best to answer that. About me, I'm Hardik Agrawal. I graduated from IIT Patna in 2022 only. My like course was civil engineering. I was just very interested on software development, so I went there. I've been working with Google for about 9 months now. So I'll not say I'm very experienced, but yeah, I'll try to share as much as I can. But yeah, I'll also suggest to not take anything I say with a big, with a pinch of salt. So start. So first of all, what is Android? So basic definition: it's an operating system for mobile devices and others. This and others, I put it to justify my job actually. Currently, we are working on Android Watch. Previously, Android, let's say, I can say if you look back 4 5 years also, you'll see that Android is basically synonymous with a phone OS. But now it's expanding. One of the major thing is Watch. You can see Android TVs are a big thing for now. So this is like one of the perception which you need to remove is the Android being a mobile OS. So maybe you can have a broader perspective on what you are developing, and also as there are certain tools. Android Studio is the most famous ID because it has a very great emulator, I'll say, integration. So all of these devices which you built on, for the most of the case, you don't actually need to set up a proper physical device. by using emulator, you can develop all of those things. So, while if you are trying to adopt Android, I'll suggest don't just think about phone. There are a lot you can do in other sectors as well. And if you're an IoT expert, which I'm not, but my personal feeling is if you have some experience with devices, there's no limit in which you can extend Android to, right? So what makes Android special is the unified approach to application development. What it simply means is you can develop one particular app, or you can develop one code that will work on multiple devices. When you are using any app, doesn't you know care what brand it is, what price range it is. Generally, the app works across all the mobile devices if you are talking about mobile application, because they are all using you know the Android operating system. So one thing which you should realize is what part you are using is Android and what is not. Like for a good example would be if you are, let's say, using Google Pay, the money transaction, which is like the connecting to the bank's server, taking the money out, putting the money to another account, that is not Android, right? That's a like a whole different backend code. That is not core Android. What Android is just that app you are using. The button you're clicking, the APIs that is calling. So, the major thing with Android is the experience. Like you should be able to do all those stuff. If you can think the world without Android, there is, in terms of functionality, there is nothing that you can't do, right? Net banking was still a thing. There were chat rooms and all. What Android enabled is to do all of those things in a phone, or in other words, in a place where it's more accessible to everyone, right? So you should think in terms of that. So, and one more thing is Android applications, as we know, I think are built in Java and Kotlin mostly. So that is one thing I think freshers might struggle to on what language to choose. First of all, that's announced kind of a history is that since 2017, Google has announced that they are supporting Kotlin as with as much attention as Java. So in terms of Android development, I don't think you need to worry about. You should just pick a language you like and get on with it. Personally, I would suggest to go with Java if you are not sure, because for now at least, as far as I know, Kotlin is very Android centric. The knowledge you gain with Kotlin development might not transfer on other areas. If you are just starting, and that's just a personal suggestion, I'll suggest you to start with Java. So even if you feel that you might don't want to go with Android in terms of the hackathon or your career, you'll have a more relevant knowledge. Although Java and Kotlin have a very strong one-on-one mapping, so if you know one, you can easily get your hands on the other. So at least in a short term, you should not worry about which language you should pick. You should just take a little bit of look in both of them, and whatever feels good to you, you can go for it. So I think that's the part I already covered. This is basically what the impact Android brings in terms of development. What you can think of is Android provided you a platform and libraries which you can use to basically develop your app. What I mean by that. So let's say you want to make a music app. Android you can get your own UI. You can maybe add any funky functionalities you want to add. What Android as a framework would do is just provide you the capability, so you can just call an API and whatever music you want to can play. So right, so you don't need to build everything from scratch, and if you go deep, you'll be very fascinated about how many things Android framework has actually already developed for you. So that's from the developer side. That's the impact of Android to reach a larger audience with as minimal effort, but still enabling you to customize as much as you want, right? Just providing the basic functionalities, and then you're good to go. Then your imagination is literally the limit, right? And last of all, what is the future? This section is just particularly when you're thinking about that, this hackathon where I where you can focus your ideas is that if you think about it, recent products from major Android based companies are not just phones or not even watches. There are fridge, TV, even ACs which can be controlled by any Android device you have. What we call it is an ecosystem. So let's again just go 4 to 5 years back. What Android is a phone OS. It runs only on your phone. Anything Android is just in your phone. That's it. But now what is the future? What we can see is being it as an ecosystem where every Android device can interact with each other. So you have a you know, more consistent experience. So one good thing is maybe you can work on how two devices can be connected or bridged together. These are kind of the things that interest me. You can have your own innovation. That's nothing wrong with that. So that's it, and it's not one part I just will briefly talk about. I don't want to make it like a corporate piece. It's just like you should not think Android is just being as a convenience, because what we think is okay. This using Android phone is convenient. It's not necessary. What you should think about the experience, I think, and you guys all can relate to, is there are people who are not that accommodated with the technology. What Android has been continuously working on as an organization, I'm saying, is to making technology available to them. So those two, one being the ecosystem, another bringing technologies to the people who are not that accommodated to it. Older people is one example. I think we all can relate to. We have at least some older relative in our house who don't know how to switch on their phone. So, or stuff like that, like or people who can't understand English. There are Android libraries. If you use them properly, it doesn't matter what the language of the user is. You can see a option in your phone that what language you want to interact with. So you can see even third party applications are capable of transiting that. It's not like that the third party developer in itself is developing the app and translating all the strings to different language. Android can do that for you also. So that's all the things you should focus on, and that you should look into in what way Android can help you while you are developing your app. So you might be developing some functionality and then you realize, oh, it's already there. I can just use it and go on with whatever I want to do. So that's it. I have a very short PTP. I'll just try to take up your questions. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm actually done with this. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask. Possible resources to learn. See, there's one of the things that I learned from is YouTube. Just search whatever you want to learn. What personally I felt is just read some article on basics of Android. Geeks is generally my go-to. There's a very great official document as well. My suggestion would be just learn 4 5 things: what an intent is, what a broadcast is, what how to set up an Android studio, maybe if you want to use that ID, and just get on with it. You know, first I think I'll try to be more formal. First, you have to learn, let's say Java or Kotlin, whatever Java. Then just set up an Android studio, your IDE or whatever IDE you want to use. Just read a simple article on what you know Android uses. There's basically intent, broadcast, receiver, content provider, that, and just get on with it. Because as I said, Android is huge, man, and there are so many things you can use. Once you start developing, then only you can search. Okay, this is the thing that I want to have. This is the functionality I want from Android, and just search it up. In the official documentation is what I suggest. But yeah, there are articles everywhere. So, like, putting a putting too much of a book time, I'll say, is not effective in terms of Android specifically. So there's so many things, and you don't actually need to learn everything. Even the very experienced Android developers I know are not like they know everything. They are just confident enough. Okay, we know there's an official resource. We'll find if there is. That's the approach which Android takes. What to do after Java? Yeah, I think that was kind of the thing that I was telling. Do you have any specific thing that I missed? So I think maybe that is- What's a beginner? Abhishek, just making sure you don't need to know anything else, right? Like, what's a beginner developer project portfolio on Android suggestion? Uh, I'll suggest just try to get with a project which basically indicates that you know how to use the framework, or you understand the framework. So it doesn't need to be anything new. So basically anything. I think the fitness tracker, the heartbeat trackers are the most common one, because those use various level of framework, basically various level of Android framework, and also it doesn't need an extra backend work. Like if you are, let's say, making a chat application, the chat backend has to be developed, and that is not part of it. One of the things is what I have seen is that is one of the most common projects you can get, and not common, but it still shows that okay, you have a good understanding of what Android is. Yeah, anything else? Rashmi, if you have question. Sir, how your conditions engineering? Okay, so the thing I think I've also pointed out while presenting is didn't join as an Android developer. I just joined, and I got assigned to a team which was an Android organization. So I started learning everything from scratch when I started my job. So as in terms of Android developer, I'll say I just started with my job. From civil engineering to tech or software engineering, if that's your question, that maybe I can answer. Can we work on or learn ML and Android dev simultaneously? It's a kind of a yes and no also, because uh, uh, on anything, if you can just place, can we learn X technology and Y technology simultaneously? That would be my response, because what I have observed, if you have time, it will be better to take those things separately. And taking those things, I don't mean them to become expert in them. Just get a basic understanding on what one thing is, what another thing is, and then maybe you can take a take up on a complicated project that use both of those. So that would be my suggestion, because uh, mentally it's very hard to do the context switching while you are learning two different technologies. So you'll be in a zone for one. When you switch, it will take you some time. You know, go to the another technology. Otherwise, you will get very confused. That's the mental side. And psychologically, if you are very lazy like me, you'll just give up on both of them. So your take on Flutter dev? I have no idea on Flutter. I have never worked on Flutter, so that will be it. But if you are asking on terms of how much the market needs a Flutter developer, or should you learn a Flutter development, or should you develop project on Flutter? Again, that will be my answer for any framework. That would be, just develop it at least before you get into the industry. If I'm talking in terms of a placement perspective, or even as a developer, if you're a very experienced developer, you'll realize that frameworks are not like much different from each other if you understand the basic concept. So if you're looking to learn Flutter, don't take it as a don't try to find, okay, what is the there are very good YouTube videos, what the market trend is, and average salary and all. Those matrices are kind of useless, I feel. So just learn it before. Yeah, just whatever you learn it properly. Just, you should not be kind of uh, you know memorizing all the concept. You should understand how that works, and to do that, you just need to before going to a higher level, have a good understanding of the lower level. So basically, let's say you don't know anything, I'm assuming. So let's say you're learning Java. Learn Java, learn the its object oriented concepts, maybe learn a little about memory management, garbage collection, that type of stuff. Then move to a framework. So when if you just learn the basics of a language, let's say for loop, while loop, and move directly to a framework, there are two things that happen. First, everything appears to be magical. You say, okay, this framework is doing some magic. I don't understand why, but that's why this framework is the best, or whatever, or worst, whatever. And another thing, which is very personal experience from my side, also I've seen other, but I can very personally relate to that, is when you are developing on a framework and you don't know the one level down of it, being with the language, you'll not be able to differentiate what are the stuff a language is doing and what are the stuff a framework is doing. When you are working on a framework, you are not completely forgetting the language. The language, the Java language, the underlying concept is still there. You should be able to differentiate that. So in future, you should be able to understand, okay, why, in which cases we need this framework. How much time it will take to master this domain? What are the barriers faced in this field? Master is a very vague word, I'll say. Master, if you are saying that, okay, nobody is better than me in Android, so there is 20 years. But I feel like once I started, 3-4 months was enough where I can say I'm not a beginner. That's that's what my definition of a master is. Someone who can say that I'm not a beginner. So maybe 3-4 months. But I think I have a very different experience on learning Android, being that I did it in a kind of job setting. So it might be different for you. But yeah, the hurdles I face is, I'll say, is just not kind of implementing, and that can be worse for you guys. If I'm being honest, if you are not part of any community, or let's say not, I don't think anyone here is currently working a job and stuff, because in college it's very easy for us to just learn it, not use it. So I was lucky enough, okay, that I have to work on a project simultaneously. But that is the biggest thing that you can maybe face. That okay, you are just learning, not developing anything, and you'll feel okay. You'll feel I know everything unless and until someone asks you to do something. So yeah, just develop simultaneously. This hackathon, this hacker pitch is one of the great opportunities you have to do so. What are the different steps during development of an Android app? Okay, interesting question. So first of all would be the design. That is a high level design, like what the app needs to do. What from what our app needs to interact. That is one of the most important things you need to get. If you are, let's say, one of the default example is the chat application, obviously. That okay, I need to interact with some kind of backend backend servers, which enables me to get the data back and forth. That is one requirement. So first, getting the requirements, outside of Android, one of the most important things. Then this part, I don't think while developing in a single project level, when you are not part of a very big infrastructure, it is needed. But it's good to have. It will give you a good also knowledge is the low level designing. If you guys don't know low level designing, basically how your app would be implemented. Basically, what will be the classes, how will those classes and objects will interact with each other. Classes, object, these are the words with object-oriented programming. If you are not accommodated with them, I don't worry, it's not very big thing. But yeah, so that's stuff. And then yeah, you go to the implementation, and the last one is testing. What is the correct order of app development? Given I know Java, what's next, like XML, Gradle, and stuff? All of those things are simultaneous, I'll say. First, you're like when you are setting up a project, I think the first thing that is developed is the main activity and the XML file. I think there is Android manifest that is about permission and stuff, and your main layout file. So it has a little simultaneous approach, but I think if you are, developing a also comparatively a small scale application, which small scale I basically mean in terms of time, let's say in 2-3 months. So I'll suggest to get done with the UI side first. UI side is the static UI, that being your HTML, and then just go start coding, because that will be better if you can do that, because once any issue arises on UI, it's good to have that certainty that is it due to some XML tag I'm using wrong, or my code that needs to be implemented some other way. So that's would be my suggestion. But yeah, the approach we use is just start with it, do things simultaneously. But yeah, there's still a level of schedule that would be that okay, first develop the XML file, get the permissions you need, get the UI, and then start working on implementing the UI. Common foundational level, learn Python. What are prerequisites for app development? Prerequisites, I'll say just learn Java. And if you are, I don't understand what foundational level might be, but any programming language that you know would help you in learning the other one. You should just try to keep an open mind. Should not expect that okay, everything would be as same as Python. But yeah, just learn Java and as I say, set up Android Studio, learn 3 4 things: the intent, broadcast receiver. Maybe if you have a very specific idea in mind, let's say you want to learn about media, so just go through the doc on media library, that what are the APIs and functionality that Android framework already provide for media applications, and then just start your project. So, on behalf of your experience, can you please tell us something required to do higher than? I can talk about it if I'm allowed to, Rashmi and Kanika, because I don't think that will be very much related to your hackathon. Okay. So I'll not give a very long answer on this because it helps. I am actually a competitive programmer by heart. The main knowledge I can say I had before my job was competitive programming. So yeah, it does it. So I want to go to data science field, but I want to also do DS in some language. So should I choose Java then do Spring so that I'm safe? You don't need to do any that so much. I'll say DSA is a completely different thing from development. So like just do it. Just get into any language because that it's more about DSA, data structure and algorithm. So those things are not language specific. So you should doesn't matter which what kind of implementation you learn. So language should not be a barrier for you if you don't want to go to competitive programming. Just do a DSA. And yeah, Java is a good language. I don't know you know how significant that is in data science. I have no idea about data science. But yeah, you can learn Java and go into data science. And I don't understand your this. I'm saying any technology you learn have demand on the market. If you learn two technologies both not in a satisfactory level, then you'll not be safe anywhere. So uh, how I don't know how much time you have or how much time you can dedicate. So according to that, you can learn both. You can learn one of them. So, so anything else, guys? You can also ask directly everything. Doesn't need to be-
Uh,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm also from the organizing team. I'll ask for something.
Sure. So do you want to ask?
What?
Hmm. Uh, I'm learning Django for doing project will be useful for Android development. Django I tried, but I don't think it has any implications in Android development. So my answer would be, what would be the best source for learning Kotlin? I have just started learning Kotlin, so I'm as beginner as you, assuming you are good. So I'm doing a course on uh, it's like the company provided a course, so I'm doing that only. So I don't think I'll be much. But I think anything you want to learn, YouTube is a good enough resource. Before my job, I have learned everything from YouTube. Literally, I haven't spent a single money in courses. Not dissing any course, there are I think some good courses I've seen. But if you don't want to spend money, so YouTube is very much fine. And as I said, it's just, you know, languages and frameworks are really, if you once start developing, you'll realize are just tools. They're not the whole thing. That is a very small part of being a developer actually. Don't put too much pressure on yourself that you have to master Kotlin before you can start Android development. There has to be a balance, right? As I said, it's not like you just learn how to do a for loop and just jump to the framework. But yeah, don't need to be a sage or a master on that. Just learn a basic level of Kotlin from anywhere and just move to the framework. And everything, including the framework, you can learn. If you could restart your Android journey, would you have made any changes to your path you took? I think I'll just, as I said, I'll implement more. And in terms, that doesn't apply on hackathon, I guess, but in terms of learning, I'll not think of originality for once. Like for once, is being my first or second project. I'll just see whatever is good and just develop it just to get an experience. And by developing it, I doesn't mean just copy and pasting the code. Yeah, and if you are doing some for some part, you have to do just when you are developing your first application or first project, and that especially when it's not for anything competitive, just make sure you understand every piece of code you write. That is lengthy process for while developing one application, but it does save a lot of time from the second one. That is the mistake I made, that okay, I made project doesn't fully understand how the machine is working. But so I've actually wasted more time rather than just completely understanding my first project, then moving to the second and stuff like that. We learned React Native for Android development. I haven't used React Native, uh, but yeah, I think it is used, right? If I'm right, React Native is a framework like React. I have worked a little bit on JS. So yeah, I think that if it's used on Android development, I don't see any harm on learning that. Does app development use Azure often? If I'm not wrong, Azure is like a web hosting service, right? Like AWS and GCP. So I don't think so. Basically, one of the things is that's what I said earlier. Also, you should understand what is when you are like trying to learn any tech or any framework, what that framework is doing, and what other things are doing. Like if I'm assuming you're talking about the Azure Web Services, that's a whole different thing than Android. I think if you are even in ML, web, everything, you will use a web services. So that is not something which is tightly coupled with the type of project you are having. Maybe it's Android, maybe it's web or something like that. So do you use Azure or not? Like I think when you are hosting, it depends on what do you want, what is the project need. That's a very, I think, web services is a very commercial side of things. So developers, I don't know, developers are software developers specifically are much concerned. What is also APEC test and how do I get involved and prepare for? I just uh, Prem, if I'm just making sure it's okay for me to answer these questions. I just because these are kind of not the hackathon. I'm okay with it. I'm just want to know you guys.
Yeah, yeah. If you are comfortable with the giving the answer, then it's okay, sir. No, no issue.
So so yeah, Google in terms of tests, I don't think they do anything special. From my experience, it was majorly ESA. They ask for your project. That's like a part of interview, ESA, and then they ask for your project. Generally, They are not concerned about what type of project there are in freshers. In senior level, you can see, okay, that technology is a big thing. That okay, you should have experience in this technology. Then only will hire you for this role. For fresher, it's not a big thing. So whatever technology you feel is good for you, maybe it can be entered, maybe it's not. Just go. Preparation is, I think, it's just as you know, it's very generic. It's get your DSA. A certain level of DSA is required, in my experience. Sad truth, you can say, or something. If you're a very poor developer. But for my experience, it might be if you're a very good developer, which I was not, so you might be able to. It's not necessary. There's no one certain path. And just a side note I'll give, not although not related to the question, is don't prepare for a single company. It's a very, first of all, very frustrating by some, if for some reason you couldn't get in. You should keep your preparation as generic as possible. That you are working on a work done. Something out of the project I would love to do that, but I think all of these are confidential. I discussed with my team that is there something, some part of our work which I can share. Sadly, I can't. One of the interesting thing I found out is the geophones. I found it very interesting that in collaboration with Google Geo release, like as I said, it's about accessibility, like providing technology to people who are not that accommodated to it. So, if you get to know, you'll see how many things you can actually consider and how many things you can overlook while developing anything. So, yeah, that's one interesting project. Other interesting project, what I know, I don't think I can tell them about you. Although my whole organization, the Wear OS, basically Android watch operating system, I found it very interesting on how how much a watch can do if you can just have a proper connection with the phone or even standalone. Because before joining my XP, my mentality about Android watch, it is some extension of Android phone. But it's not. It's very, if you can search about it, there are so many interesting things which a watch can do, being unpaired with the phone, and how it's doing, because like how the data layer is configured and all, that's very interesting too. Can you comment on Google key wants to remember things we can focus on? How was the technical? Yeah, one thing you should, a perspective which you don't get while developing in your college and stuff, and that I'm talking about every companies. You code a small part of a very big infrastructure. So things like readability of code, cleanness of code, redundancy can not just in terms of beautification, right? When we say code readability, we just think, okay, the code should look beautiful. It's not something that just we are doing in terms for aesthetic. When the code grows, then you realize how much these things are needed. So keeping your code self-explanatory and clean is one of the big part. Even while you are interviewing, they give you a very generic DSA problem. The challenge might not be the DSA problem. The challenge might be how well you write the code. How well, if I give that code to someone else with no explanation at all, they can understand it. So that includes your code structure, your function structure, your variable names. They don't expect you to make classes and stuff when it's not needed. So at high level, you don't need to do. But yeah, can you comment? Please let me know if it's like really inaudible. Because I think my network is fine as far as I know, but it might be some issue. Are you active on LinkedIn? Does it help to attain? I am not active. Does it help to attain currently? So, what do you want to ask? Does the knowledge of GitHub, or you are just saying your GitHub profile? Because both of them are actually relevant. As I said, I was not a very big developer back then. I'm not still. Take it away. But yeah, my development was not my strong suit. That's what I can say. Uh, so but yeah, if you're a developer, your developer profile, GitHub profile is your basically your developer history, right? So it's very important. And knowledge of GitHub has, again, it's the version control is what GitHub does. So that is again very much separated from Android or any technology. Some part of it, Google and every major company have their internal tools for this type of stuff. But if you understand one, it's a little easier to understand what the other thing is, what replacing is, what merge conflicts are. If you know GitHub properly, you'll understand in other tools. If I want to build an Android app and don't have any past experience, can you suggest I need to learn what all software I need to master? And again, I think I mentioned it that don't try to be bookish about it. Learn Java or Kotlin, not and or. Get a little idea about Android framework. Set up your IDE and just be started with it. See, any best thing to learn anything is to implement. So, because books does not teach you. I am not against book. The reading documentation is one of the biggest part. But while learning, I think implementation, just you know, with the necessary knowledge, just get into implementation. That's all. Yes, yes. Sure, plans to do. I'm really still figuring it out. I have no idea. My target was to get into a good company. Once I got it to Google, and now I'm just figuring out the next. What's the major role of Android developer? Okay, that's it. Uh, See, one is a third-party developer, what we call in Google. That is the companies which just develop an Android app. One examples can be, PhonePe, Spotify, stuff like that. There's app. There are companies which hire for app development. There are companies that work with, Android as a framework, like let's say Samsung, OnePlus, and all those. They are the things. There are the companies that they don't make the app. They kind of change the, uh, you know, not change also, but yeah, they use the framework to create an entire platform, right? So that is second, and third is Google, which really works on the framework also. Google, actually, I think you can say Google works on all the three levels, and let's say Samsung works on two levels, being apps and the whole platform. And there are things like Spotify I mentioned. Which working on. So, so the major role would yours would be in 95% of time would be use the framework and get the expected outcome. So basically, that what that includes is researching what the other things are doing, how basically the other components which you are working with, how you are going to interact with them. That's one thing that as an Android developer you figure out. You know and developing the code and designing and stuff is important. The major challenge that I think Android developers face is Android being, see, it's there are two polar things you can say about Android. One, it's they claim it to be secure, they claim it to be consistent, but they also claim that anywhere anyone can can develop an Android app. So these kind of are customization and consistency. If you think about it, these are practically the opposite words. So there are so many, you'll find kind of restrictions that are not, I would say, hard coded restriction that you cannot move forward with without them. But yeah, there will not be a point of developing anything in Android if you cannot be secure, be consistent. Security is something which is kind of hard coded. If your app is not secure, Android would not allow you to run your app on it. Consistency and stuff, you have, there's no point of developing an Android app if you cannot, if your user feels a friction while using that. Okay, like say if you're using a app, you're using your phone is a very flawless experience nowadays. We can agree. In Android, in Apple, everything. So if you break that consistency, it's really not point. So maintaining a very consistent, flawless experience. Consistency, flawless is very something I'll emphasize because that's what I'm struggling with. Our team is currently what we are a flawless experience because when you go on a detail on a very millisecond time of thing that okay, the screen is glitching for a, let's say, some hundreds of milliseconds. Once you start noticing that, then any small thing can become very tedious. So that's our major job. That's our major job description. What do you think about Flutter? Yeah, I think I mentioned that I have no experience in Flutter, so I don't think I'm able to comment on that. Again, I'll just repeat that if you want to learn a framework, just learn it because the main thing is actually not the framework but the underlying concepts of a language, or that's not even language, just understanding the logic. It's at the end it's all logic, right? Code is a piece of logic. So you should, while learning a framework, you should at least at a beginner level, when you are just doing everything for learning, you are not preparing for a specific job or stuff, just learn anything you want, whatever feels good to you, just learn it properly. Don't think about the market trends or the, I think YouTube, LinkedIn, influencer wars are a big thing now. I follow them for entertainment, but yeah, that's, you should be, that's just entertainment. Don't, all those things you should not take to the heart about, okay, this framework is dying, this framework is doing that, this framework is doing that. Just learn whatever you want. Can you tell something about Android game development? In terms of how they are developed, I have no idea. I think game development in itself is not explicitly part of Android. But what I can say is they have a good support. There are projects, I think, working on promoting that. Android game development. So if you want to get into Android game development, I don't think it's not a bad time. Google is focusing a lot in terms of scope. I think there's scope. They are promoting that. If I'm wrong. So yeah, but game development as such, you have to I think kind of look through if it is part of core Android or you might have to use other technologies. Between app and Android development. Okay. As I mentioned that one thing is you know app. One thing is app. One of the things in Android is the app. Other things you can like what can I'm trying to think of example. Uh, right. Okay, let's say you are uh, okay. Examples I just don't want to create anything confidential. Uh, just think of it as what is in your phone which is not an app. Then you can get the answer. Like there has to be some layer that interacts with the hardware, right? And different hardware. The same code needs to interact with different hardware. Be it your Samsung B1 Plus, be it the Google Pixel 2. That's one thing. Another thing is maybe how you might have to develop a platform where you can see there's a array. Android has versions, right? And there's one thing called API level. These are two different things. Every Android version has, let's say, 2 or 3 APIs. So that's why I think you can see things like Android 11, Android 11.5. So there are different applications using different API levels. So that means there is some APIs which are being updated. So those API has to be developed, right? Or maybe let's say you are working on some mobile company, then you have to create a platform that okay, apps using different API levels should still run should good enough because majorly you can see there are apps like that this app we have a update. If you don't do update, you can still run the app, right? Someone has to make that compatibility work. That is part of Android development. There are some apps which you can, I think, if you games actually is one of the major things that do that. That okay, if you don't update now, you cannot play. So that's a compatibility issue. So things like that is also part of Android development. That ultimately you can say for the major part again, it's app. The end result is app. Your phone is just collection of different apps, but behind the scene, there's so many other things because you should. It's not that let's say one app makes a change. Okay, this is what I think it's a Zomato and any payment app, any food delivery app and a payment app interacts. Now the food delivery app is as it is, the payment app has updated in some way. Now the food delivery app, either if it's compatible with the new update, it's fine. But if it's not, the food app kind of wants to have a warning, right? Okay, we are not compatible with this version of your app which you have updated on your phone. So that part is not developed by the food delivery app. That is taken care of by the Android platform, right? Okay, I the Android platform. Okay, the Android platform would say I can sense there are two apps. These two apps interact with each other. But yeah, now I can see these are not compatible. So that is part of Android development, but that is not exactly app development. That is just an example. I hope that clears a little bit of it.
Yeah, Rashmi, now we think wrap up the session. I think.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this interesting session. On behalf of the entire team of HackerPitch, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you for your guidance and support throughout these sessions. Uh, Guys, we'll be having some more sessions on domains like blockchain, cybersecurity, cryptocurrency, GPT and ChatGPT, IoT, and backend development. So come on, guys. Get back with your innovative ideas. Hope to see you all at IITM's campus. We'll enjoy having you all. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being
Good,
here.
good,
Thank you,
good.
sir. Thank you so much.
Good,
Thank
sir.
you for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for
Uh,
having me. You guys are great. Thanks a lot.